Thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video, more on them later. This is your ultimate guide to understanding all 139 killer perks in Dead by Daylight. I spent almost 100 hours recording visual examples of every single killer perk to make them as easy to understand as possible, so you have a completely free resource to come back to if you're confused about how a perk works. For each perk, I will have a few elements on the screen. Killers that the perk synergizes particularly well with, other perks that it synergizes well with, the killer that you unlock this perk on, and my personal ranking of the perk's strength based on my personal experiences and playstyle preferences as a pub player with thousands of hours. This ranking is not objective by any means and is purely how much I like and use this perk as a non-competitive player. We will be going in alphabetical order, so it's easy to find the perk you're looking for from the timestamps in the description below. Each perk in the description is also marked with a circle that shows its popularity. Red circles are for perks that you won't see very often since they're super niche or not very popular. Yellow circles are for perks that you may run into every once in a while, and green circles are perks that you will see in a majority of your matches. So if you just want to understand the most popular perks to make the learning process a little bit less overwhelming, you can skip to the timestamps for the green circles only. Remember, Dead by Daylight is a live service game, meaning they buff, nerf, and rework perks constantly, so keep in mind that some perks will be slightly or even completely different after this video's upload date. The perks in this video are based on the current 9.5.2 patch with the recent release of Trickster's map and rework. Make sure you read the perk's description in-game to see if it's still the same thing I explained in this video before using it. And a massive thank you to Master Reloading for helping me obtain a lot of these clips. I could not have done this without him. I'll put links to his socials in the description below. This took an extremely long time to make, so I'd really appreciate it if you dropped a like and subscribed if you're new. Also, if there's anyone you think would benefit from a video like this, feel free to send it to them to help out. But before we begin, a quick word from the sponsor of today's video, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and you can play it for completely free on PC, consoles, and even your mobile device using the links in the description or the pinned comment. It has more than 2,500 incredibly detailed and immersive tanks, planes, helicopters, fighter jets, and ships of 10 major nations from the 1920s to modern day. Downloading War Thunder is the perfect way for you to join 95 million other players in a tactical, action-packed experience with authentic sound effects, realistic graphics, and intense PvP battles using the most powerful, detailed vehicles and war machines of our time. Whether you prefer fast-paced arcadey action or prefer slower-paced realism and authenticity, there is a game mode for you. There's even a new mobile version available on iOS and Android with intuitive controls, impressive graphics, and fantastic optimization. The mobile version lets you take the battlefield wherever you go. One of my favorite parts about War Thunder is the fact that vehicles don't just take damage on a health bar, they actually suffer damage to their components and crew instead. There's simply no game better suited for fans of action, strategy, or military history. Play War Thunder now for free on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile using the links in the description or the pinned comment. If you use my links, you'll receive a massive bonus pack with multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, 7 days of a premium account, and more. This offer is only available for a limited time for new and returning PC or console players who haven't played for at least 6 months. Thank you to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. With that being said, let's get right into it. A Nurse is Calling. You can see the auras of any survivors that are being healed if they're within 32 meters of your location. This also works if the survivor is healing themselves by any means. Agitation. This perk is only active while you're carrying a survivor. While carrying them, you move 18% faster and your terror radius becomes 12 meters larger. Alien Instinct. If you hook a survivor, this perk reveals the aura of the furthest injured survivor from your location and applies the Oblivious status effect to them for 60 seconds. Oblivious prevents survivors from hearing your terror radius. All Shaking Thunder. After you fall from a height, such as a hill or a second-story building, this perk becomes active for 25 seconds. During these 25 seconds, you lunge 75% farther. This perk has a 5-second cooldown. Awakened Awareness. While carrying a survivor, you see the auras of all other survivors if they're within 20 meters of your location. Bamboozle. Bamboozle permanently increases your window vault speed by 15%. Every time you vault a window, that window becomes blocked for 16 seconds, meaning the survivors can't vault it. If you vault the same window again, that timer resets. If you vault a different window, the block moves to that one instead, and again, the timer resets. Barbecue and Chili. After you hook a survivor, you can see the auras of all survivors who are at least 40 meters away from that hook for 5 seconds. Batteries included. If you're within 16 meters of a completed generator, you gain 5% haste. Haste increases your movement speed. The haste is removed 5 seconds after leaving the radius of that gen. Beast of Prey. Whenever you trigger Bloodlust, you become undetectable for 40 seconds. Bloodlust is the status effect that makes you faster if you've been consecutively chasing a survivor for a long period of time, and undetectable removes your tear radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors survivors from reading your aura. Bitter Murmur. Each time a gen is completed, you see the auras of anybody within 16 meters of that gen for 5 seconds. When the last gen is completed, however, you see the auras of every survivor on the map for 10 seconds. Blood Echo. Each time you hook a survivor, it applies 30 seconds of exhaustion and hemorrhage to any injured survivor. Exhausted prevents survivors from using exhaustion perks such as Lithe, Dead Hard, or Sprint Burst. The exhaustion timer pauses while the survivor is sprinting, and hemorrhage increases the frequency that injured survivors drop pools of blood and causes healing progress to regress if they're not fully healed. Blood Warden. This perk only activates if an exit gate is opened. You can see the auras of any survivors inside of an exit gate. If you hook a survivor while Blood Warden is active, it blocks the survivors from leaving the trial through an exit gate for 60 seconds, but this effect can only happen once. Bloodhound. This perk makes pools of blood significantly brighter and extends their lifetime before disappearing by 4 seconds, making it easier to find and track injured survivors. Brutal Strength. You break or damage pallets, generators, and breakable walls 20% faster. Cull of Brine. After you kick a generator, Cull of Brine affects that generator for 70 seconds, and its aura is revealed to you in yellow. During that time, it regresses at 150% of the normal regression speed, and you get a loud noise notification if a survivor hits a good skill check on it. Corrupt Intervention. At the start of the match, the 3 generators farthest from your spawn point are blocked for 120 seconds, and their auras are revealed to you in white. However, Corrupt Intervention deactivates as soon as any survivor is put into the dying state. Coulrophobia. Any survivor inside of your terror radius heals 50% slower, and their healing skill checks spin 50% faster, making them more difficult to hit. Coup de Grace. Each time a generator is completed, you gain 2 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. This perk only lets you hold 5 tokens at a time. Each time you lunge by holding your attack button, you spend 1 token to increase that lunge's range by 80%. You can avoid spending tokens by simply clicking your attack button rather than lunging, with the downside of having to be right next to the survivor to hit them. Cruel Limits. This perk was previously called Claustrophobia before the Stranger Things license was reinstated. Whenever a generator is completed, all windows are blocked for survivors for 30 seconds. During that time, you can also see the auras of those blocked windows in yellow. Cull the Weak. This perk is called Dying Light only for players who owned the Halloween chapter before the license was removed from the game. This perk only activates while the Obsession is alive. The Obsession is the survivor with the large spider leg icon on the HUD. Every time you hook a survivor who is not the Obsession, you gain 1 token. And you can see the total number of your tokens on the perk icon. Each token gives the survivors a stackable 3% decrease to repairing, healing, and sabotaging, up to a maximum of 33% slowdown at 11 tokens. However, the Obsession is not affected by this perk and instead gains a permanent 33% increase to unhooking and healing speeds. Dark Arrogance. You permanently vault windows 25% faster for the entire duration of the match. However, you get pallet stunned and blinded 15% longer. Dark Devotion. If the Obsession becomes injured by any means, this perk transfers your terror radius to them and you become undetectable for 45 seconds. Undetectable removes your terror radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors from reading your aura. The transferred terror radius is set to 40 meters. Darkness Revealed. When you search a locker, this perk shows you the auras of any survivors within 8 meters of any locker on the map for 8 seconds. It then goes on a 30-second cooldown. Deadman Switch. After you hook a survivor, the next generator that any survivor stops repairing becomes blocked for 35 seconds, and the gen becomes highlighted to you in white. This perk cannot trigger again if it's still active. Deathbound. When a survivor finishes healing another survivor for the equivalent of 1 full health state, the healer screams and reveals their location. Then they can see the Deathbound icon on their HUD and must stay within 4 meters of the person that they healed, otherwise they become oblivious. Oblivious prevents survivors from hearing your terror radius. While Deathbound is active, the healer can also see the healed survivor's aura, so it's easy for them to get back in range if they want to. This perk deactivates once the healer loses a health state. Deerstalker. If a survivor reads your aura, Deerstalker activates for the same length of time and lets you see their aura as well. On top of that, every 30 seconds, your aura is shown for 3 seconds to the survivor with the lowest total chase time. Discordance. If 2 or more survivors are repairing the same generator, you get a loud noise notification and the aura of that generator turns yellow for you. This only applies if you're within 128 meters from the gen, which is generally a majority of the time. The aura lingers for 4 seconds if the above conditions are no longer met. Dissolution. Whenever you injure a survivor, a 3-second countdown starts. At the end of this countdown, the perk becomes active for 20 seconds. During those 20 seconds, if the survivor you injured fast vaults a pallet while inside of your terror radius, that pallet instantly breaks. Distressing. Distressing permanently increases your terror radius by 30%. That is literally all that it does. Dominance. The first time a survivor interacts with each chest or each totem, the perk blocks that object for 16 seconds. You can also see the aura of the blocked item in white. Dragon's Grip. After you kick a generator, this perk activates on that gen for 30 seconds. The first survivor who touches the gen during that time screams, revealing their location for 4 seconds, and becomes exposed for 60 seconds. Exposed means that they're insta-down regardless of health state if you hit them with a basic attack. This perk then goes on cooldown for 30 seconds. Enduring. This perk reduces your pallet stun duration by 50%, but is disabled while you're carrying a survivor. Eruption. When you kick generators, those gens become highlighted in yellow. Then, if you down a survivor, all highlighted generators explode, instantly losing 10% total progress and begin regressing. Any survivors currently repairing those generators scream, and their auras are revealed to you for 12 seconds. After it triggers, Eruption goes on a 30-second cooldown, and the highlighted gens are reset. Fire Up. Each time a gen is completed, this perk gains a token. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. Each token gives you a stackable 6% faster speed for picking up and dropping survivors, breaking walls and breaking pallets, damaging generators, and vaulting windows. At maximum stacks, when all 5 generators are completed, you perform each of these actions 30% faster. Forced Hesitation. Whenever a survivor is put into the dying state, all other survivors within 16 meters of them become 20% hindered for 10 seconds. Hindered reduces their movement speed. This perk then goes on a 30-second cooldown. Forced Penance. If a survivor takes a protection hit, they become broken for 80 seconds. Broken prevents the survivors from being healed. If you didn't know, a protection hit is when a healthy survivor takes a hit for an injured survivor that is currently in chase. Forever Entwined. Every time a survivor takes damage, this perk gains 1 token up to a maximum of 8 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on your perk icon. Each token increases your speed for dropping, hooking, and picking up survivors by 4% up to a maximum of 32% at 8 stacks. Franklin's Demise. When you hit a survivor with a basic attack, they drop the item that they are carrying. You can then see the aura of that dropped item from up to 64 meters away. Friends till the end. If you hook a survivor who is not the obsession's aura is revealed for 10 seconds and they become exposed for 20 seconds. Exposed means that they are insta-down regardless of health state if you hit them with a basic attack. However, if you hook the obsession, then one of the 3 other survivors will scream, revealing their location, and they become the new obsession. Furtive Chase. After you hook the obsession, you become undetectable and gain 10% haste for 18 seconds. Undetectable removes your tear radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors from seeing your aura. Haste increases your movement speed. Then, if a survivor unhooks the obsession status transfers to them. Game Afoot. If you hit the survivor who currently has the highest total chase time with a basic attack, they become the new obsession. While you're chasing the obsession, breaking or damaging something gives you 7% haste for 10 seconds. Haste increases your movement speed. Gearhead. After a survivor loses a health state, Gearhead activates for 30 seconds. During that time, if any survivor hits a good skill check while repairing, their aura is revealed to you for 8 seconds. Genetic limits. Whenever a survivor loses a health state by any means, they become exhausted for 8 seconds. Exhaustion prevents survivors from using exhaustion perks such as Lithe, Dead Hard, or Sprint Burst. The exhaustion timer pauses while the survivor is sprinting. Grim Embrace. Each time you hook a unique survivor for the first time, Grim Embrace gains a token. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. Once you're at least 16 meters away from that hook, it activates. For the first 3 tokens, all generators become blocked for 10 seconds. However, at 4 tokens, all generators become blocked for 40 seconds, and the obsession's aura is revealed to you for 6 seconds. Haywire. If a survivor stops opening an exit gate after reaching at least 80% progress, that gate starts regressing at 100% of the normal opening speed. While it regresses, survivors will see the switch lights flickering randomly to indicate that it's regressing. Help Wanted. After you kick a generator, that gen becomes a compromised generator. When a compromised gen is completed, you recover from successful basic attacks 25% faster for 60 seconds. Hex Blood Favor. At the start of the match, Blood Favor turns a random Dull Totem into a Hex Totem. Whenever a survivor loses a health state, all upright pallets within 32 meters of that survivor are blocked for 15 seconds, and survivors cannot drop them. The perk stays active until survivors bless or cleanse the totem. Hex Crowd Control. Whenever a survivor performs a medium or fast vault at a window, Crowd Control turns a random Dull Totem into a Hex Totem and blocks that window for all survivors. You basic vault 15% faster through blocked windows and can see their aura up to 24 meters. Basic vault just means vaulting without the use of any vault ability, such as those on Wesker or Legion. This perk can affect up to 6 windows at once and stays active until the Hex Totem is blessed or cleansed. Hex Devour Hope. At the start of the match, Devour Hope turns a random Dull Totem into a Hex Totem. Each time a survivor is unhooked at least 24 meters away from you, this perk gains a token up to 5 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. At 2 tokens, each time you hook a survivor, a 10-second timer starts. At the end of that timer, you gain 5% haste for 10 seconds. At 3 tokens, all survivors become exposed indefinitely. Exposed means that they're insta-down regardless of health state state if you hit them with a basic attack. At 5 tokens, you gain the ability to kill downed survivors with a Mori rather than hooking them, regardless of their hook state. This perk stays active until the Hex Totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex Face the Darkness. This one is a little complex, so bear with me. If there is still a Dull Totem in the match, injuring a survivor will turn a random Dull Totem into a Hex Totem and curses that injured survivor with this Hex. So you hit a survivor, the Hex spawns, and the survivor you just hit becomes cursed. While they are cursed, every 25 seconds, all other survivors who are outside of your terror radius scream, and their auras are revealed to you for 2 seconds. So to reiterate, every 25 seconds, you'll see the location of any other survivor that is outside of your terror radius. This Hex Totem transforms back into a Dull Totem if you down the cursed survivor, or if that cursed survivor gets healed, so it's only available for survivors to cleanse while the cursed survivor is injured. Like all other Hex perks, this perk is permanently disabled if survivors cleanse or bless the Hex Totem. Hex Fortune's Fool or Hex Plaything. This perk is called Hex Plaything for players who owned the Hellraiser chapter before the license was removed from the game. If there is still a Dull Totem available, the first time you hook each unique survivor, a random Dull Totem turns into a Hex Totem that curses the survivor. The cursed survivor becomes oblivious, which prevents survivors from hearing your terror radius. The Hex Totem is blocked for all other survivors for 90 seconds, which means nobody else can cleanse or bless it during that time. The cursed survivor is the exception, however, and they can still interact with it and can also see its aura within 16 meters. The perk remains active until the totem is cleansed or blessed, but because there's 4 different survivors, that means they have to cleanse or bless up to 4 different Hex Totems. Hex Haunted Ground. At the start of the match, Hex Haunted Ground lights 2 totems. If survivors cleanse or bless either one, all survivors become exposed for 60 seconds. Exposed means that they're insta-down regardless of their health state if you hit them with a basic attack. Once triggered, the second Hex Totem is immediately extinguished and the perk is disabled for the rest of the trial. Hex Hive Mind. The first time you hook any survivor, if a Dull Totem still exists, one of them turns into a Hex Totem. While the perk is active, the intensity of the generator's auras shows you how much repair progress they have. If they're white, that means they have no progress, and if they're red, that means they're almost completed. As soon as 4 generators have been completed, the rest of the generators on the map explode, instantly losing 10% progress, and they start regressing. When this triggers, the Hex perk deactivates. As usual, if the Hex Totem is cleansed or blessed first, then the perk deactivates for the rest of the match. Hex Huntress Lullaby. At the start of the match, Huntress Lullaby lights a random Dull Totem. This perk increases the failed skill check penalty by 6%. Every time you hook a survivor, the perk gains a token up to 5 tokens, and you can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. The more tokens it has, the time between the skill check sound cue and the actual skill check becomes shorter. At 5 tokens, the warning sound is removed entirely. This perk lasts until the Hex Totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex No One Escapes Death, also known as Noed. When the last generator is completed, if there is still a Dull Totem left, a random Dull Totem gets lit with this Hex. While active, you gain 4% haste, meaning you move 4% faster, and every survivor becomes exposed. Exposed means that they're insta-down regardless of health state if you hit them with a basic attack. This perk only gets revealed to survivors as soon as you down a survivor with a basic attack. Once it's revealed to survivors, the aura of the Hex Totem becomes visible to them within 4 meters, and the reveal range grows to 24 meters over 30 seconds. If there are no Dull Totems left when the last gen is completed, the perk never activates. Otherwise, this perk stays active until the Hex Totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex Nothing But Misery. After you damage survivors a total of 8 times with basic attacks, a random Dull Totem becomes a Hex Totem. While it's active, any survivor you hit with a basic attack becomes 5% hindered for 15 seconds. Hindered reduces movement speed. The perk stays active until the Hex Totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex Overture of Doom. At the start of the match, Overture of Doom lights a random Dull Totem. This Hex Totem curses the generator farthest from it, and that generator's aura is highlighted to you in yellow. If a survivor repairs the cursed generator for at least 5 seconds, then your terror radius is transferred to that gen and is set to 32 meters for the next 30 seconds. You also become undetectable during this time. Undetectable removes your terror radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors from reading your aura. If the cursed generator gets completed, the next farthest generator from the Hex Totem becomes cursed instead. This perk remains active until the Hex Totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex Pentimento. This perk lets you see the aura of cleansed totems in white. You can walk up to the remains of a cleansed totem to rekindle it. Each rekindled totem gives Pentimento 1 token up to 5 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. At 1 token, survivors heal and repair 20% slower. At 2 or more tokens, that penalty gets 3% stronger per token, up to a total of 32% slower healing and repairing speeds at the maximum of 5 tokens. Survivors affected by Pentimento can see the aura of the rekindled totems when they're within 16 meters, and if you reach the maximum of 5 tokens, all of your totems become blocked for the rest of the match and can no longer become cleansed or blessed. However, each totem can only be rekindled once per trial. Hex Retribution. At the start of the match, Retribution lights a Hex totem. Whenever a survivor blesses or cleanses any totem, they become oblivious for 60 seconds. Oblivious prevents survivors from hearing your terror radius. Also, whenever any Hex totem is cleansed or blessed, the auras of all survivors are revealed to you for 20 seconds. This perk stays active until its own Hex totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex Ruin. At the start of the match, Ruin lights a random dual totem. While this perk is active, any generator that is not currently being repaired automatically regresses at 150% of the normal regression speed. This perk disables when its Hex totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex the Third Seal. At the start of the match, a random dual totem gets lit into a Hex totem. Each time you hit a survivor, they suffer from blindness until the Hex totem is cleansed or blessed. Blindness prevents survivors from seeing most auras, with the exception of killer-related objects like Freddy's alarm clocks or Pig's jigsaw boxes, or essential objects that you can track with perks or a map, such as chests or exit gate switches. This perk disables when its Hex totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex Thrill of the Hunt. At the start of the match, this perk begins with 5 tokens, 1 for each totem in the trial. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. This perk reduces cleansing and blessing speeds by 60%. Every time a totem is cleansed, the perk loses a token, which decreases the reduced cleansing speed by 12%. So the more totems that the survivors cleanse, the weaker this perk becomes. This perk stays active until its own Hex totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex 2 can play. After survivors have stunned or blinded you a total of 2 times, and if a dual totem is still available, a random totem becomes Hex 2 can play. After this point, any survivor who stuns or blinds you becomes blinded themselves for 1.5 seconds. This does not affect carried survivors. This perk deactivates when its Hex totem is cleansed or blessed. Hex Undying. At the start of the match, Undying lights a random dual totem. If a survivor comes within 4 meters of any dual totem, you can see their aura for as long as they stay near it. However, they can see that you have Undying the first time they get near a dual totem. The main effect of this perk is that if any other Hex totem gets cleansed, Hex Undying essentially says "Get down, Mr. President," and saves that Hex totem from being cleansed. So it basically gives the first Hex totem that gets cleansed an extra life. Hex Wretched Fate. After a generator is completed, this perk lights a random dual totem and curses the Obsession. While cursed, the Obsession repairs 33% slower, but they can see the aura of that Hex totem when within 12 meters. Hoarder. Whenever a survivor opens a chest or picks up an item within 64 meters of you, you get a loud noise notification for 4 seconds. It also spawns 2 extra chests in the match in an attempt to make survivors open more chests. Hubris. Whenever a survivor stuns you by any means, they become exposed for 30 seconds. Exposed means they're insta-down regardless of health state if you hit them with a basic attack. It then goes on cooldown for 20 seconds. Human Greed. This perk shows you the auras of unopened chests and lets you kick open chests to close them again. If a survivor comes within 8 meters of a closed chest, their aura is revealed to you for 5 seconds. The chest kicking ability has a cooldown of 10 seconds. Hysteria. When you injure a healthy survivor, all survivors who are currently injured become oblivious for 40 seconds, including the survivor that you just injured. Oblivious prevents survivors from hearing your terror radius. The perk then goes on a 20-second cooldown. I'm all ears. If a survivor performs a rushed vault within 48 meters of you, their aura is revealed to you for 8 seconds. The perk then goes on cooldown for 30 seconds. Infectious Fright. Whenever a survivor is put into the dying state, all other survivors inside of your terror radius scream and reveal their location to you for 6 seconds. Insidious. If you stand still for 1 second, you become undetectable as long as you remain stationary. Undetectable removes your terror radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors from reading your aura. This perk is almost exclusively used by bubbas who camp the basement. Iron Grasp. While you're carrying a survivor, their wiggle movement affects you 75% less, and it takes them 12% longer to wiggle free. Iron Maiden. When you search any empty locker, Iron Maiden makes you search 50% faster. This also works for killers that have to reload at a locker, such as Huntress or Trickster. Also, whenever a survivor exits a locker, they scream, triggering a loud noise notification at their location for 4 seconds, and they become exposed for 30 seconds. Exposed means that they're insta-down regardless of health state if you hit them with a basic attack. Keep them waiting / save the best for last. This perk is called Save the Best for Last for players who owned the Halloween chapter before the license was removed from the game. Every time you hit a survivor with the basic attack and they're not the Obsession, you gain a token, up to 8 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. Each token reduces your successful basic attack cooldown by 4%, up to 32% at the maximum of 8 tokens. However, hitting the Obsession with any type of attack removes 2 tokens. If the Obsession dies, your current token count is locked in and cannot change anymore. Knockout. If a survivor drops a pallet, this perk activates for 6 seconds. During these 6 seconds, if the survivor moves more than 6 meters away from that pallet, they become 5% hindered for 5 seconds. Hindered reduces their movement speed. Languid Touch. If a survivor scares away a crow within 36 meters of you, they become exhausted for 10 seconds. Exhausted survivors cannot use exhaustion perks such as Lithe, Dead Hard, or Sprint Burst, and the exhaustion timer pauses while the survivor is sprinting. This perk then goes on a 5-second cooldown. Lethal Pursuer. At the start of the match, you see the auras of all survivors for 11 seconds. On top of that, every time any survivor aura would be revealed to you later in the match, it lasts 2 seconds longer. This only applies to aura reading abilities that last for a certain amount of time. It does not apply to aura reading abilities that are based on a certain condition. Leverage. Whenever a survivor unhooks somebody, the person who unhooked heals 30% slower for 60 seconds. Lightborn. Lightborn makes you completely immune to being blinded. It also reveals the aura of any survivor that attempts to blind you for 10 seconds. Machine Learning. After you kick a generator, that gen becomes a compromised generator and its aura becomes highlighted to you in yellow. If you kick another gen, the compromised status moves to that new gen. If a compromised gen is finished, you become undetectable and gain 8% haste for 60 seconds. Undetectable removes your tear radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors from reading your aura. Haste increases your movement speed. Mad Grit. While carrying a survivor, you no longer have any cooldown on your missed attacks, meaning you can literally spam your attack button and it looks super goofy. If you hit a survivor while carrying somebody, the carried survivor's wiggle progress is paused for 4 seconds. Make your choice. If a survivor is unhooked while you're more than 32 meters away from them, the person who got the save screams, revealing their location, and they become exposed for 60 seconds. Exposed means that they are insta-down regardless of health state if you hit them with a basic attack. The perk then goes on cooldown for 60 seconds. Merciless Storm. When a generator reaches 90% repair progress, Merciless Storm activates. Survivors repairing it are forced into a continuous stream of skill checks until the gen is completed. If any of them miss a skill check or stop repairing for any reason, the gen gets blocked for 20 seconds. This can only happen once per generator. Mindbreaker. This perk was previously called Fearmonger before the Stranger Things license was reinstated. While a survivor is repairing a gen, they suffer from blindness and exhausted. Blindness prevents survivors from seeing most auras, and exhausted prevents survivors from using any exhaustion perks such as Lithe, Dead Hard, or Sprint Burst, and the exhaustion timer pauses while the survivor is sprinting. Both of these status effects linger for 5 seconds after they stop repairing. If they're already exhausted, Mindbreaker does not reset their exhaustion timer, it simply pauses it while they're on the gen. Monitor and Abuse. While you're in chase, your tear radius is 15% larger, but while you're not in chase, your tear radius is 25% smaller. So you're a bit stealthier while you're not in chase, but it's much easier for survivors to know where you are while you're in chase. Nemesis. If a survivor who is not the obsession blinds you or stuns you with a pallet or locker, they become the new obsession. Whenever your obsession changes, their aura is revealed to you for 8 seconds, and they become oblivious for 60 seconds. Oblivious prevents survivors from hearing your tear radius. No Holds Barred / Deadlock. This perk is called Deadlock for players who owned the Hellraiser chapter before the license was removed from the game. Every time a gen is completed, another gen with the most progression gets blocked for 25 seconds and its aura is shown to you in white. No Quarter. If a survivor healing themselves reaches 75% heal progress, they are forced into a continuous stream of skill checks until the self-heal finishes. If they fail a skill check or stop healing for any reason, they become broken for 30 seconds. Broken prevents survivors from being healed. No Way Out. Each time you hook a unique survivor for the first time, this perk gains a token. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. Once the last generator is completed, the first survivor to interact with an exit gate switch triggers a loud noise notification. Then both exit gate switches get blocked for 12 seconds plus 12 extra seconds per token, up to 60 seconds total if you have all 4 tokens. None are free. Each time you hook a unique survivor for the first time, this perk gains a token. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. If all generators are completed, every single window and upright pallet is blocked for 60 seconds per token, up to 64 seconds at full stacks. Nowhere to hide. Whenever you kick a generator, the auras of all survivors within 24 meters of your location are revealed to you for 5 seconds. This is 24 meters of your location, so even if you use an ability, for example one that teleports you to the other side of the map, you'll still have this effect for 24 meters in your location. Oppression. When you kick a generator, up to 4 other generators are randomly chosen to also start regressing. Any survivors currently repairing those extra generators are forced to hit a difficult skill check. This perk then goes on cooldown for 35 seconds. Overcharge. When you kick a gen, the next survivor who touches it must hit a difficult skill check. If they fail, the generator instantly loses an additional 4% of its total possible progress. The kicked gen also ramps up from 85% regression to 130% regression over 30 seconds. Overwhelming Presence. If a survivor starts using any item within 32 meters of you, they become exhausted for 15 seconds. Exhausted prevents survivors from using exhaustion perks such as Lithe, Dead Hard, or Sprint Burst. The exhaustion timer pauses while the survivor is sprinting. If this perk triggers, the closest exhausted survivor's aura is revealed to you for 4 seconds. This perk then goes on a 25-second cooldown. Phantom Fear. If a survivor inside of your tear radius looks at you, they scream and their aura is revealed to you for 2 seconds. Phantom Fear then goes on a 60-second cooldown. Pop Goes the Weasel. After you hook a survivor, this perk activates activates for 45 seconds. If you kick a generator during this time, that gen loses 20% of its total progress, and then the perk disables until the next time you hook a survivor. Predator. If you lose chase on a survivor, their aura gets revealed to you for 4 seconds, and this perk goes on cooldown for 40 seconds. Rancor. Every time a generator is completed, all survivors scream, triggering a loud noise notification, and the obsession sees your aura for 3 seconds. When the final gen is completed, the obsession becomes exposed for the rest of the trial, and you gain the ability to kill them with a Mori regardless of their hook state. Exposed means that they're insta-down if you hit them with a basic attack. Rapid Brutality. Rapid Brutality removes your ability to gain Bloodlust. Bloodlust makes you faster if you've been consecutively chasing a survivor for a long period of time. In exchange, whenever you hit a survivor with a basic attack, you gain 5% haste for 10 seconds. Haste increases your movement speed. Ravenous. Each time you hook a unique survivor for the first time, Ravenous gains a token. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. Once you've reached 4 tokens, meaning you've hooked each unique survivor, all survivors scream and become exposed for 60 seconds. Exposed means that they're insta-down regardless of their health state if you hit them with a basic attack. Remember Me. Whenever the obsession loses a health state, this perk gains a token up to a maximum of 5 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. Each token adds 6 seconds to the time needed to open exit gates, up to 30 extra seconds at max stacks, meaning the gates can take up to a total of 50 seconds to open. However, this perk does not affect the obsession. Scourge Hook, Floods of Rage. At the start of the trial, 4 hooks turn into Scourge Hooks, and their auras are shown to you in white when you're carrying a survivor. Whenever a survivor is unhooked from a Scourge Hook, the auras of all other survivors are revealed to you for 7 seconds. Scourge Hook, Hangman's Trick. At the start of the trial, 4 hooks become Scourge Hooks, and their auras are shown to you in white while carrying a survivor. Also, while carrying a survivor, you can see the auras of any survivors that are within 16 meters of any Scourge Hook on the map. If a survivor starts sabotaging any hook, even if it's not a Scourge Hook, you get a loud noise notification at that hook. Scourge Hook, Jagged Compass. At the start of the trial, 4 hooks become Scourge Hooks, and their auras are shown to you in white while you're carrying a survivor. Whenever a survivor is unhooked from a normal hook, that hook turns into a Scourge Hook, so you can get additional Scourge Hook locations on your map. If you hook a survivor on a Scourge Hook, the generator with the most progression is highlighted to you in yellow for 10 seconds. Scourge Hook, Monstrous Shrine. At the start of the trial, 4 hooks become Scourge Hooks, and their auras are revealed to you in white while you're carrying a survivor. This perk also counts basement hooks as Scourge Hooks. Whenever you are more than 24 meters away from a survivor hooked on a Scourge Hook, their sacrifice progress is sped up by 20%. Scourge Hook, Pain Resonance. This is the most popular killer perk in the game. At the start of the trial, 4 hooks become Scourge Hooks, and their auras are shown to you in white while you're carrying a survivor. Pain Res starts with 4 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. Each time you hook a unique survivor on a Scourge Hook, this perk consumes a token and causes the generator with the most progression to explode, losing 20% of its total progress, and it begins regressing. Any survivors repairing that generator scream, but it does not create a loud noise notification. Once all 4 tokens are used, this perk disables for the rest of the trial. Scourge Hook, Weeping Wounds / Gift of Pain. This perk is called Scourge Hook, Gift of Pain for players who owned the Hellraiser chapter before the license was removed from the game. At the start of the trial, 4 hooks become Scourge Hooks, and their auras are shown to you in white while you're carrying a survivor. Whenever a survivor is unhooked from a Scourge Hook, they suffer from hemorrhage for 90 seconds. Hemorrhage increases the frequency that they drop pools of blood and causes healing progress to regress if they're not fully healed. The first time that the survivor heals to full health, their healing and repair speeds become 16% slower until they're injured again. Secret Project. Whenever any totem is cleansed or blessed, a random unblocked generator becomes blocked for 30 seconds. If a gen gets blocked by any means, even if it's not by this perk, you become undetectable for 30 seconds. Undetectable removes your tear radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors from reading your aura. See How They Run / Play With Your Food. This perk is called Play With Your Food for players who owned the Halloween chapter before the license was removed from the game. Whenever you lose your obsession in Chase, this perk gains a token up to a maximum of 3 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. Whenever you perform a basic attack or any special attack that could damage a survivor, you lose a token. While you have at least 1 token, each token gives you 5% haste up to a total of 15% at max stacks. Haste increases your movement speed. There is also a 10-second cooldown between gaining new tokens. Septic Touch. Whenever a survivor heals while inside of your tear radius, they suffer from blindness and exhausted. Blindness prevents survivors from seeing most auras, and exhausted prevents survivors from using exhaustion perks such as Lithe, Dead Hard, or Sprint Burst. The exhaustion timer is paused while the survivor is sprinting. If the survivor that's healing within your tear radius gets interrupted, the blindness and exhausted effects linger for 30 seconds. Shadowborn. Whenever you're blinded by any means, Shadowborn gives you 10% haste for 10 seconds. Haste increases your movement speed. Shattered Hope. Instead of snuffing a boon totem, this perk lets you destroy it completely. When you do, 2, the auras of all survivors who are inside of that boon's range are revealed to you for 8 seconds. Sloppy Butcher. When you hit a survivor with a basic attack, they suffer from hemorrhage and mangled for 90 seconds. Hemorrhage increases the frequency that survivors drop pools of blood while they're injured, and also causes healing progress to regress if they're not fully healed. Mangled causes the affected survivor to be healed 20% slower. Sloppy also makes the effects of hemorrhage stronger, so pools of blood spawn twice as often, and any partial healing progress they lose regresses 25% faster. Spies from the Shadows. If a survivor scares a crow within 36 meters of you, you get a loud noise notification in the shape of a crow, and this perk goes on cooldown for 5 seconds. Spirit Fury. After you manually break 2 pallets, this perk activates. The next time a survivor stuns you with a pallet, that pallet instantly breaks, then the perk deactivates until the next time you manually break another 2 pallets. Starstruck. While you're carrying a survivor, this perk activates. All other survivors within your terror radius become exposed. Exposed means that they're insta-down regardless of their health state if you hit them with a basic attack. The exposed effect lingers for 30 seconds after they leave your terror radius or after Starstruck deactivates. The perk deactivates when you hook or drop the carried survivor, and then it goes on a 60-second cooldown. Strider. Strider makes survivors' grunts of pain while injured 50% louder and makes normal breathing sounds 25% louder. Superior Anatomy. If a survivor performs a medium or fast vault within 12 meters of you, this perk activates and your next vault is 40% faster. After you vault with this perk active, the perk deactivates and goes on a 25-second cooldown. Surge. This perk was previously called Jolt before the Stranger Things license was reinstated. Whenever you down a survivor with a basic attack, all generators within 32 meters of you instantly explode, losing 8% progress, and they start regressing. Surveillance. This perk changes the aura colors of generators to white if the gen is currently regressing. If a survivor touches the gen to stop it from regressing, the aura of the gen turns yellow for 16 seconds before returning back to normal. The generator repair sounds are also audible from 8 meters further away. Terminus. When the last gen is completed, any survivor that is injured, downed, or hooked becomes broken. Broken prevents survivors from being healed. This effect lasts until one of the gates is opened, and then it continues for another 45 seconds. Territorial Imperative. If a survivor enters the basement while you're more than 24 meters away from the basement entrance, their aura is revealed to you for 6 seconds. The perk then goes on a 45-second cooldown. Thanatophobia. If at least one survivor is injured, dying, or hooked, all survivors gain a 2% penalty per affected survivor to cleansing, repairing, and sabotage speeds. So if one survivor is injured, dying, or hooked, it's only a 2% penalty. If there are 2 of these survivors, it's a 4% penalty. And if there's 3 of these survivors, it's an 8% penalty. If all 4 survivors are injured, dying, or hooked, the penalty gains an additional 12% bonus, making it 20% total. So you basically want to have all survivors injured to get actual value out of this perk. Thrilling Tremors. After you pick up a survivor, all generators that are not currently being repaired become blocked for 16 seconds, and their auras are shown to you in white. This perk then goes on a 30-second cooldown. Thwack. You start the match with 3 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. Every time you break a dropped pallet or a breakable wall, you consume a token and make every survivor within 36 meters of you scream, revealing their aura for 6 seconds. Each time you hook a survivor, you regain a token. Tinkerer. Whenever a generator reaches 70% progress, Tinkerer gives you a loud noise notification on that generator, and you become undetectable for 16 seconds. Undetectable removes your terror radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors from reading your aura. This can only happen once per generator. Trail of Torment. When you kick a gen, you become undetectable, and that kicked generator's aura is revealed to all survivors in yellow, so they know that you're using this perk. Undetectable removes your terror radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors from reading your aura. The perk ends when that generator stops regressing for any reason, and then goes on a 30-second cooldown. Turn back the clock. After you hook a survivor, for the next 60 seconds, you can press the active ability button to explode a generator from up to a range of 20 meters. The explosion makes the gen instantly lose 10% progress and causes it to start regressing. Ultimate Weapon. Whenever you search a locker, all survivors within 40 meters of that locker scream and reveal their location to you. They also become blind for 30 seconds. Blindness prevents survivors from seeing most auras. The perk then goes on a 45-second cooldown. Unbound. Whenever a survivor becomes injured, Unbound activates for 30 seconds. During that 30-second period, if you vault a window, you gain 7% haste for the next 10 seconds. Haste increases your movement speed. This perk cannot stack with itself. Undone. Every time a survivor fails a skill check, this perk gains 3 tokens up to a maximum of 30 tokens. You can see the number of tokens you have on the perk icon. If you kick a gen, it consumes all of your current tokens, and the gen immediately loses 1% total progress per token up to 30% at max stacks. It also gets blocked for 1 second per token up to 30 seconds at max stacks, and then starts regressing when the block ends. This perk has a 60-second cooldown. Unforeseen. After you kick a generator, your terror radius becomes 32 meters and is transferred to that generator for 30 seconds. During that time, you become undetectable. Undetectable removes your terror radius, removes your red stain, and prevents survivors from reading your aura. aura. The perk then goes on a cooldown for 30 seconds. Unnerving Presence. Survivors inside of your terror radius have a 10% higher chance of getting skill checks, and those skill checks have a 60% smaller success zone, making them more difficult to hit. Unrelenting. Unrelenting reduces the cooldown of your missed basic attacks by 30%. That's it. That's all it does. Wandering Eye. Whenever you start chasing a survivor, the auras of all other injured survivors within 20 meters of you are revealed for 5 seconds. This perk has a 30-second cooldown. Weave Attunement. The first time a survivor's item becomes fully depleted, it is automatically dropped. You can see the aura of any dropped item and the auras of any survivors within 12 meters of dropped items. Those affected survivors can also see their own item's aura. If a survivor picks up a dropped item, they become oblivious for 30 seconds, which prevents them from hearing your terror radius. Whispers. Whenever a survivor is within 32 meters of you, Whispers activates. Its perk icon lights up and you start to hear the sound of the entity whispering, which tells you that there's at least one survivor within those 32 meters. Zanshin Tactics. This perk lets you see the auras of pallets and windows within 32 meters. If a survivor drops a pallet, their aura is revealed to you for 5 seconds. A quick reminder that if you download War Thunder for free using my links below, you gain access to a massive free bonus pack with 100,000 silver lions, 7 days of a premium account, the Eagle of Valor decoration, and more. This bonus pack is for console or PC players only for a limited time, and you can get it if you're a new player or returning player who hasn't played in the last 6 months. Use my links to join 95 million other players on the battlefield. If you found this video helpful, drop a like and subscribe if you're new, and also share it with anyone that you think could benefit from it. If you want to know which killers to unlock first so you can get the best perks, come check out this video on screen now.